Fellow Toastmasters, we haven't had a vacation in a couple of years. And part of the reason why is because a couple of years ago I went down to Texas to see my family. And after the airport lines that Jerry described, after going through that whole process, you meet a family that's excited to show you all about their town. And so we do all of the fun things that we can do. Let's go to the Alamo again. Let's go to a restaurant. Let's eat barbecue. And by the time we get back to California, we feel like all of our energy is gone. And that we didn't have an opportunity to recharge our batteries and feel better so we can get back to work with a great attitude. So we looked for a way that we could relax our bodies, ease our minds, and find a way to just enjoy a vacation and come back better for it. And ladies and gentlemen, my proposal is this. Take a hike. Our hike started when we first were introduced to Catalina Island, and that was just a couple years ago. Like most people, we went to Avalon, beautiful town, popped around to the shops, stayed at all the different hotels to see which one we liked the best, enjoyed restaurants and beaches, and really enjoyed ourselves. But at one point in time, after we'd been all over this beautiful island, we had an opportunity to go up the trail that you can see right there. It took us back behind Avalon to this place that was just for us. It was beautiful. Mountains, trails, animals, and it was all ours. There wasn't anybody back there. As we walked along, my wife saw a sign for the Trans-Catalina Trail. And when she saw it, she got excited. When we got home after that trip out there, which was just a weekend, she started researching the Trans-Catalina Trail and found it was a 37-mile trail that went back and forth between the windward and leeward island, side of the island, all the way to the end. So you could literally see the entire island. What she also found was that there were 4 strategically located campsites that would allow you to do this whole trip in a 4-day breakdown. She also found out that the 37-mile trail requires about 53 miles to accomplish. Because you have a few backtracks and a few different connections that you had to make. I said, Sharon, I did a hike of about 20 miles about 30 years ago. At Fort Benning, we started at 10 o'clock, hiked all night long with a full pack on our backs, and I'll tell you this, I don't want to do that again. She said, oh, come on, give it a try. And so after talking about all the food we need, after we talked about the water we need on this completely drought-ridden island, we decided we were going to do this. So we jumped on the ferry, big backpacks on our back, and got to the trailhead at Trans-Catalina Trail. It was 3 miles to the trailhead. That wasn't on the list. So already we're at 56 miles. We take off on our trail, we get up through the Trans-Catalina Trail, which basically runs right over the mountaintops. And I said at the beginning of this, well, you know, the highest point in Catalina is 1,800 feet. It's not that big a deal. We'll knock this out. Well, it's 1,800 feet, followed by 500 feet, followed by 1,800 feet, followed by 200 feet, followed by 800 feet. So we got to the top of this mountain, and we were at 15 miles into our hike. This was supposed to be a 14-mile day. And we weren't anywhere near the mile marker that we needed to be to Blackjack Campground. So we hiked down into a valley. We were running a little low on energy. Started climbing up a hill, and it really started to hit us. And just about the time we were kind of running out of energy, we saw this beautiful campground. These big gnarled trees, this foxtail of gold just running into a valley we just climbed out of. It was absolutely beautiful. And 22 miles later, I was beat. I sat at that picnic table with my head in my hand eating dinner. We climbed into bed, and we have slept like we have never slept before. I woke to a snort. Looked at my wife, thought she was snoring. She wasn't snoring. This fella joined us. Flacco was 10 yards away from our tent when we woke up in the morning. And by the way, he wasn't alone. A couple started heading off onto the trail, and as you can see in that little spot in the corner, he is actually blocking the trail for those campers, and he's pawing the ground and being very aggressive. They do a big circle and get out of his way. But when it was our time to leave, thankfully he'd moved on. But I'll tell you what, those are some beautiful animals. I mean, amazing. To his shoulders, he's taller than I was. Absolutely amazing animals. Back on the trail, leaving Blackjack, we're heading for the airport in the sky. And one of the most exciting things, because we've been eating Gatorade bars for a while, is at the airport there is a restaurant. So we climb over these mountains, we get down into the restaurant, and we meet our little friend here, the Catalina Fox. Now, Catalina is the only place where this animal lives. It's a very small fox, as you can tell. Actually, the only predator on the island besides me. And he has lunch with us, hoping we'd drop a little food. I did not lose a single bite of that hamburger. And then we continued on, jumped back onto the trail, and headed to our next stop, which was Little Harbor. Little Harbor is gorgeous. This huge, actually double harbor, there's two harbors that run with a point in the middle. We got down to Little Harbor, we got on the beach, we jumped in the water, we swam around for a while, we lied in the sun, and we thought, boy, this vacation is going pretty darn well. Very relaxing, and hey, only 18 miles to get there. Again, after a very, very restful sleep, my wife informed me that the next day was going to be a bit of a challenge, but the shortest trip of the entire 4-day hike. And we headed off to Two Harbors, which is the next biggest town in the island. Before I left, though, I snuck in a little fly fishing, made sure that I got a chance to use that fly rod since it was hanging off my pack the entire time. I think I got 8 casts and we went on our way. One of the first times that we ran into trouble, losing our way, was our skimpy map, Richard. We found ourselves in a position where we were off the trail. And the mile marker on the first trail was on the road. We continued, but there were 8 different trails that went into Little Harbor. So when we were heading for Two Harbors, we actually got on the wrong one. So we climbed up that mountain, down a valley, up another mountain, and then we found ourselves basically on top of the world. This goat path ran across the top of the island like the spine of the island. At one point in time, there was clouds rolling over us, which was nice because it cooled us down. You could see the mountaintops over the clouds. You could see the water below. These deep browns, this snow white of the clouds, the deep blue of the water. It was absolutely amazing. And literally, the hill fell off to either side of us, and you could literally see the ocean on both sides. Beautiful, beautiful hike. And this was where we got to the top of the mountain and looked down on Two Harbors, our third location. When we came into Two Harbors, we had another restaurant, thank God, had some lunch. And then we enjoyed our day in Two Harbors, had a 3-hour nap, then an 8-hour sleep, because the next day was the worst one we were going to deal with, Sharon told me. This day was only 12 miles, thank goodness. Okay, up the hill we go, and we climb in over mountains that we're literally like this, going down the hill. It was so steep, holding on to each other so we didn't slide all the way down the hill. But we made it all the way up and looked down on this beautiful Parsons Landing. Parsons Landing had a beautiful beach, and the campsites were right on it. Unfortunately, we still had a 4.5-mile hike to get to mile marker 37. So jump out to Starlight Beach, 4.5 miles of trail, see this beautiful beach from about that distance, and then mile marker 37. We've done it. We've completed our journey. Now we have to walk back home. So 4.5-mile hike back to the beach just as it was hitting sunset. Absolutely beautiful. And swim in the ocean, lie on the beach, set up camp, enjoy a fire, eat dinner. Man, this is just relaxing and great. We wake up in the morning and Sharon says, let's hang around till 11 until we hike back in. That's when the Boy Scouts showed up. 200 of them by boat. Now, we had tried to stay away from the crowd, so this was our opportunity to diddy mow. We got out of there, jumped on the trail again, walked past some beautiful places like Emerald Bay, and headed back into Avalon. Now, I got to tell you something. 78 miles later, we had accomplished something that we felt so good about. We had a great time interacting the entire time, most of the time by ourselves. If you're going to take a vacation, I suggest you go visit your mother. Mother Nature. Go see her, and you will come home rested, relaxed. Fellow Toastmasters, this is what I wish for all of you for your next vacation. Thank you.